The sun rose over the serene village of Oko, its golden rays reflecting off the gently flowing waters of the mighty river that snaked through the heart of the community. It was a picturesque scene, one that the people of Oko had come to cherish and depend upon, for their very livelihoods were intimately tied to the ebbs and flows of this life-giving waterway. In the center of the village, the market bustled with activity as the fishermen returned from their early morning excursions, their catch of the day displayed proudly for all to see. Some were lucky, their nets bursting with a bountiful haul of shimmering, silvery fish. Others, however, had not been so fortunate, their empty baskets a sobering reminder of the fickle nature of the river's gifts. Among the harried crowd of vendors and buyers was Chukwuma, a weathered man whose lined face bore the marks of a lifetime spent toiling on the water. He had been a fisherman for as long as he could remember, following in the footsteps of his father and grandfather before him, but lately his luck had taken a decidedly downward turn. Chukwuma's nets had been coming up empty far too often, leaving his family with meager rations and mounting debts. Try as he might, he could not seem to shake the feeling of despair that crept into his heart with each passing day. The river, once his faithful companion, now seemed to taunt him, its depths concealing the bounty that he so desperately needed. As Chukwuma made his way through the bustling market, he couldn't help but overhear the excited chatter that filled the air. Whispers of a grand fishing contest, organized by the king himself, had been spreading like wildfire through the village, and the anticipation was palpable. The winner, one fisherman boasted to his companion, will be rewarded with untold riches and the admiration of all who lay eyes upon their catch. Chukwuma's heart skipped a beat. A chance to win such a prestigious prize, it was an opportunity he couldn't afford to pass up. Perhaps, just perhaps, this was the break he had been praying for, a chance to turn his fortunes around and provide for his family once and for all. Without hesitation, Chukwuma made his way to the palace, where the king was holding court. Approaching the imposing figure of the ruler, Chukwuma bowed low, his weathered hands trembling with a mixture of nerves and hope. "Your Majesty," he began, his voice wavering slightly, "I have heard of your fishing contest, and I humbly request the honor of participating." The king regarded Chukwuma with a measured gaze, taking in the man's humble appearance and the desperation that lurked behind his eyes. A small smile tugged at the corner of the ruler's lips as he nodded in acknowledgement. "Of course, my good man," the king replied, his voice rich and resonant. "All are welcome to try their luck on the river. The contest will be held at dawn tomorrow, and the prize will be a fortune beyond your wildest dreams." Chukwuma's heart soared with renewed hope as he offered his thanks and hurried back to his modest home, his mind racing with the possibilities that lay ahead. That evening, as the villagers gathered around their evening meals, the air was abuzz with talk of the impending contest. Some fishermen boasted of the impressive catches they had made in the past, confident that their skill and experience would be the keys to victory. Others, like Chukwuma, listened with a mixture of trepidation and determination, knowing that this was their chance to change the course of their lives. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the village in a warm, golden glow, Chukwuma sat alone on the banks of the river, his weathered hands expertly mending his tattered fishing nets. He knew that tomorrow would be a pivotal day, one that could either break him or lift him to heights he had never imagined. "Oh, great river," Chukwuma whispered into the stillness of the evening, "lend me your blessings, that I might catch a prize worthy of the king's contest. My family's future depends on it." With a deep breath, Chukwuma rose to his feet, his eyes scanning the tranquil waters before him. He could feel the anticipation building within him, a spark of hope that had been flickering for far too long. As the first rays of dawn began to peek over the horizon, the villagers gathered at the riverbank, the excitement palpable in the air. The king himself arrived, resplendent in his regal robes, and raised his arms to command the attention of the assembled crowd. "My people," he proclaimed, his voice carrying across the water, "today we embark on a quest to find the most magnificent catch the river has to offer. The winner of this contest will be rewarded with a fortune that will change their life forever." A cheer rose up from the gathered fishermen, each one eager to prove their skill and secure the coveted prize. Chukwuma stood among them, his heart pounding in his chest, his hands gripping his weathered fishing rod with a determination that belied his humble appearance. As the king gave the signal to begin, the fishermen cast their lines into the river, their eyes scanning the waters intently for any sign of movement. Chukwuma focused his gaze, his senses attuned to the slightest vibration in his line, his mind filled with a singular, laser-like focus. Time seemed to slow to a crawl as the fishermen waited with bated breath. The only sounds the gentle lapping of the river and the occasional cry of a bird overhead. Chukwuma's muscles tensed, his eyes narrowed, and then, without warning, he felt a powerful tug on his line. Reacting with lightning-fast reflexes, Chukwuma set his feet and began to reel in his catch, his face etched with a fierce concentration. The crowd around him held their collective breath, their eyes fixed on the unfolding drama. Slowly, inexorably, Chukwuma's line drew closer and closer, until finally, a shimmering, golden creature emerged from the depths, its scales glittering like 1,000 tiny mirrors in the morning light. The crowd erupted in gasps of awe and wonder, their voices rising in a cacophony of disbelief. Chukwuma, his eyes wide with astonishment, stared at the magnificent fish that thrashed and writhed on the end of his line, its beauty unlike anything he had ever seen. The king, who had been observing the proceedings with a keen eye, stepped forward, his expression one of profound amazement. "My goodness," he murmured, his voice tinged with reverence. "What a marvelous creature you have caught, my friend. Truly, this is a sign from the river spirits themselves." Chukwuma, his legs shaking with a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration, could only nod dumbly, his gaze transfixed by the golden fish that had so unexpectedly come into his possession. The king, sensing the fisherman's overwhelming emotions, placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder and smiled warmly. "You have won the contest, Chukwuma," he announced, his voice ringing out across the gathered crowd. "This golden fish is a testament to your skill and the blessings of the river. From this day forward, you and your family shall be rewarded beyond your wildest dreams." The villagers erupted in a cacophony of cheers and applause, their faces alight with a mixture of wonder and joy. Chukwuma, his eyes brimming with tears of disbelief, found himself the center of attention, the hero of the day. As the king's servants hurried to secure the golden fish and prepare it for transport to the palace, Chukwuma stood rooted to the spot, his mind racing with the implications of his unexpected triumph. He had gone from a struggling fisherman, his nets empty and his family facing an uncertain future, to the winner of the king's prestigious contest, his life forever changed by the capture of a single, extraordinary creature. In the midst of the celebration, Chukwuma couldn't help but feel a sense of trepidation. The golden fish, with its shimmering scales and captivating beauty, seemed to weigh heavily upon him, a responsibility that he had not fully anticipated. What did the future hold for him and his family now that they were the custodians of such a remarkable prize? As the sun climbed higher in the sky, the villagers gradually dispersed, their chatter and excitement giving way to a sense of anticipation and wonder. Chukwuma, left alone on the riverbank, gazed out at the gently flowing waters, his mind filled with a swirling mix of emotions. "What have I done?" he murmured to himself, his voice barely above a whisper. "How can I possibly live up to the expectations that now rest upon my shoulders?" But even as the doubts crept into his mind, Chukwuma could not deny the sense of awe and gratitude that welled up within him. This golden fish, a true marvel of the river, had been entrusted to him, and he knew that he had a responsibility to honor its legacy and the blessings of the spirits that had brought it to him. With a deep breath, Chukwuma turned and began the long walk back to his humble home, his mind already whirring with plans and possibilities. Whatever the future held, he was determined to face it head-on, his newfound fortune a blessing that he would use to better the lives of his family and his community. As the villagers watched Chukwuma depart, they could sense the weight of his newfound responsibility, but they also saw in his eyes a glimmer of hope and determination that had been absent for far too long. For in that moment, the poor fisherman had become a hero, a symbol of the power of perseverance and the wonders that the river could bestow upon those who dared to dream. The news of Chukwuma's miraculous catch spread like wildfire through the village of Oko and beyond, captivating the hearts and imaginations of all who heard that. Within days, the once humble fisherman found himself at the center of a swirling storm of attention and adulation, his small home by the river quickly becoming the most coveted destination in the entire region. As the king's emissaries arrived to retrieve the golden fish and transport it back to the royal palace, word of its astonishing beauty and the extraordinary circumstances of its capture had already begun to reach the far corners of the kingdom. Merchants, nobles, and curious onlookers from all walks of life descended upon the village, eager to catch a glimpse of the legendary creature and the man who had been chosen by the river spirits to possess it. Chukwuma, a man who had spent his entire life in the relative obscurity of the riverbank, now found himself thrust into the unwelcome glare of public attention. His once quiet existence was suddenly upended, with a constant stream of visitors clamoring to see the golden fish and to hear the story of its capture from his own lips. At first, the fisherman was overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the attention he was receiving. Accustomed to the simple rhythms of his daily life, the din of the bustling crowds and the persistent inquiries of the curious onlookers threatened to overwhelm him. He found himself longing for the peaceful solitude of the river, where he could find solace in the familiar motions of casting his net and the gentle lapping of the water against the shore. Yet, as the days and weeks passed, Chukwuma began to see the extraordinary opportunity that had been presented to him. The king, impressed by the fisherman's incredible luck and the subsequent outpouring of public interest, had decreed that Chukwuma and his family be given a brand new home, befitting the newfound status and importance of their household. Gone were the cramped quarters and the constant struggle to make ends meet. The modest dwelling that had once been Chukwuma's refuge was now replaced by a spacious, well-appointed home, complete with all the modern comforts that the kingdom had to offer. The fisherman found himself marveling at the opulence that now surrounded him, a far cry from the simple life he had once known. With his family's immediate needs now taken care of, Chukwuma found himself in a unique position to help those less fortunate in his community. Using the resources and influence that had been bestowed upon him, he began to organize charitable initiatives, funneling a portion of the wealth generated by the constant stream of visitors towards the construction of a new school, a community center, and a much-needed clinic. The villagers, once skeptical of the changes that Chukwuma's newfound fame had wrought, now saw him as a beacon of hope and a champion for the betterment of their community. The once poor fisherman had not only found his own good fortune, but had chosen to share it with those around him, cementing his status as a beloved and respected figure in Oko. As the months passed, the crowds that flocked to Chukwuma's home only grew in size and enthusiasm. Visitors from far and wide came to marvel at the golden fish, its shimmering scales and mesmerizing movements captivating all who laid eyes upon it. Some came with the hope of purchasing the creature outright, offering Chukwuma sums of money that would have been unimaginable to him just a short time ago. Yet, the fisherman steadfastly refused to part with his most prized possession, the golden fish. He had come to realize was more than just a symbol of his good fortune. It was a living testament to the power of the river, a reminder of the blessings that could be bestowed upon even the humblest of individuals. "This fish is not mine to sell," Chukwuma would tell the persistent suitors, his voice firm and unwavering. "It belongs to the river, and the river has seen fit to share its gift with me. I will not betray that trust, no matter the cost." The king, impressed by Chukwuma's steadfast loyalty and his commitment to the well-being of his community, took steps to ensure that the fisherman and his family would be protected from the ceaseless demands of the public. Guards were stationed at the entrance to Chukwuma's home, and a steady stream of visitors was carefully regulated, ensuring that the family could enjoy some semblance of privacy and respite from the constant spotlight. Yet, even with these measures in place, Chukwuma found himself grappling with the weight of his newfound responsibilities. The endless parade of visitors, the constant requests for audience, and the never-ending demands for his time and attention, he found himself longing for the simple joys of his former life, the quiet solitude of the riverbank, and the familiar rhythm of his daily tasks. One evening, as the sun was setting over the village, Chukwuma slipped away from the bustling crowds and made his way to the river's edge, his feet instinctively carrying him to his old fishing spot. There, in the peaceful solitude of the gently flowing waters, he found a moment of respite, his mind drifting back to the days when his life had been defined by the simple pleasures of his craft. As he sat there, his weathered hands tracing the familiar contours of his fishing rod, Chukwuma was struck by a realization. The golden fish, for all its beauty and the wealth it had brought him, was not the true source of his happiness. It was the river itself, the rhythms and cycles of its life-giving waters that had sustained him and his family for generations. In that moment, Chukwuma understood that his newfound fortune was not a burden to be borne, but a gift to be shared, not just with his own family, but with the entire community that had supported him and nurtured him throughout his life. With a renewed sense of purpose, the fisherman rose to his feet and made his way back to his home, his steps quickening with each passing moment. As he approached the crowded entrance, he was greeted by a throng of eager visitors, each one clamoring for his attention. But this time, Chukwuma's response was different. Instead of shrinking away from the demands of the public, he embraced them, his face alight with a warm and genuine smile. "My friends," he said, his voice carrying over the din of the crowd, "I have a message for all of you. The golden fish that you have come to see is not mine to hoard or to sell. It is a gift from the river, and it belongs to all of us." The crowd fell silent, their faces etched with confusion and curiosity as Chukwuma continued. "From this day forward, I will open my home to you all, that you may come and marvel at the wonders of the river's bounty. But more than that, I will use the resources that have been entrusted to me to enrich the lives of our entire community." With those words, Chukwuma unveiled his plans for the construction of a new school, a community center, and a clinic, all funded by the wealth generated by the endless stream of visitors who came to see the golden fish. The villagers erupted in a thunderous cheer, their faces alight with a mixture of pride and gratitude. Chukwuma, once a humble fisherman, had become a beacon of hope and a champion for the betterment of his community, a true testament to the power of the river's blessings and the transformative nature of perseverance and generosity. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the village in a warm, golden glow, Chukwuma stood at the center of the celebrating crowd, his heart filled with a profound sense of purpose and fulfillment. The golden fish, once a symbol of his own good fortune, had become a vessel through which he could share the river's gifts with all who had supported him throughout his life. In that moment, Chukwuma knew that his legacy would extend far beyond the confines of his own household. The golden fish and the wealth it had brought him would be used to uplift an entire community, a testament to the transformative power of the river and the enduring spirit of the Nigerian people.